So, good day. I'm here to present about culture. So, first is let us define what is culture. So, culture, these are beliefs and actions that define a group of people's way of life. So, in other words, culture is something that is practiced by a certain group of people and it continues from generation to the next generation, and it has a very important um, contribution to the development of a certain tribe, group, or society as a whole. So, what comprises culture? So, culture is composed of five things. The first one is what we call the customs or beliefs. So these are the things in which there are no scientific explanation but are practiced by people because it is one of those oral traditions that they acquire from previous or from their ancestors. So most common belief is the belief on where did man came from. So basing on that, we can have a different insights, no, basing from different cultures. Like for example, if we stand on the point of view of the Jews, they believe that there is only one God, and then that God created the first man, and the rest is history. The next one is language. So when we say language, it is the way of communicating in order for us to express our ideas, to express our insights, and it is also a means to understand one another. And in the world, we have many languages, in fact, and these languages are came about based on the locality of those people where they live. Next is component of culture is religion. So in the perspective of religion, we have many different religions right now. Some religions believe in only one God. Some believe in the Trinitarian point of view. And religion really have a big impact on the culture of the people living in it because it influence in the lifestyle of those people. Next is technology. So from the perspective of technology, there's a lot of contribution basing on the culture. In fact, the invention of um, paper, and it's not only in Egypt at the time, but it has also a parallel development of those technologies in China. Uh, the wheel, no, invented by the Sumerians, which really brought about the modern comfort of transportation that we have right now. And another one is the institution. So in the institutions, this would include our schools. We know that the higher education institutions have a big role in developing the mindset of our children and eventually brings a very big contribution to the success or the failure of a society. And the last one is government. So in the form of government, there's also different types. Some people believe in democracy, no, the power by the people for the people and of the people. We have a dictatorship. So these things are incorporated into what we call culture. So first, as I've said earlier, these lead to traditions. It reflects the values of a society. So take for example the first code of Hammurabi, which was introduced way ahead of the Mosaic law, that give importance to the value not only to human life but also to the value of material things, and that is why those people who stole other people's goods are punishable. No? There is a corresponding punishment if um, you break some of its laws. Then here you can see women who are wearing hijab, and these are Muslim women, and they wore this one because it is part of their customs that the woman should be covered, no, because they to avoid sexual innuendos from the opposite sex. So that is one of the main reason why they wear this one. And of course, for the Christians, we have our practice of celebrating Christmas during December 25th. And then this one is a tradition in Spain, in which there is a yearly, you will be run after bulls. We know this is some kind of stupid, but it is already been embedded into the culture of these people. So there's a caption there. Tradition, just because you've always done it that way, it doesn't mean it's not incredibly stupid. And this one is another. This is in the Nordic country in which they have this yearly competition for the strongest men. So this is a very cold environment, and survival of the fittest. So this is form of a machismo culture. So the next is the family structure. So as we know, family, as according to Confucius, is the basic unit of society. So we know that parents may live with just their children. Other places, parents, children, and extended family live together. So best example I can give here is our Filipino culture, in which we have extended family. Even if the children of the parents are already married, they are still sharing the same house, and they try to divided the tasks to do, no, in order to go around with everyday living. And then there is what we call the gender roles. So when you say gender roles, these are the roles that are assigned to men and women. So it's like men doing the work, and then the women mostly is staying at home and taking care of the kids. Changing gender roles. Women in America have seen many changes. And in fact, it's not only in America, but some of the countries, some developing countries are already adapting to these changing gender roles, in which women are now welcome to work what men can do before. Just like, for example, drivers. So before, it's only a manly job, but right now there are women driver who also do the same thing. Traditional roles. Many countries in the world maintain traditional roles for women. So these traditional roles, we can sum it up like the traditional role of women in the house, in which a woman is a housekeeper, in which she is the one responsible for taking care of the kids, preparing meal for the family, and making the home a livable place. Next is language. So as I've said earlier, language is important because it it is needed for us to communicate. And there are many major languages in the world. So as you can see there by geographical location, So the pink one is the Chinese speaking, while English, as you can observe, is the majority of all the highlighted in the map. We have the Spanish speaking, mostly in South America. We have Arabic in the Middle East, Hindi in the South Asia, Russian in the Eastern Europe, Portuguese, it's in South America also, and French scattered around Europe. Religion. So when you say religion, these are set of beliefs about the meaning of life and the supernatural. So this means a religion is focused on finding the meaning of our existence. And it also talks about supernatural, meaning it talks about things beyond what we see, understanding the things beyond what we hear, understanding things beyond what we comprehend. And then customs and practices deal with those beliefs. Yes, it's because it depends on religion. For example, for Islam, they only and the Jews they only believe in one God, no? Then they set their laws. For the Jews. They have their uh, for the Jews they have their kosher, and then for the Muslims they have their Sharia law, in which that is the thing that they follow in order for them to be a good Muslim individual. So religion has a really big impact in culture. And in fact, in the Philippines, we know that the Philippines is majority are Catholics. So the idea of divorce is even up to this time is highly debatable in the government. It's because it is embedded to us that once what God um, unite cannot be separated by man. So basing on that idea, that's the reason in comparison with the other countries in the world, we the Philippines and in Vatican are the only two countries left that still disallow um, divorce. And another thing is the idea of same-sex marriage. Majority of religion doesn't agree on that idea for a man being married to a man and a woman married to a woman. So these are the major religions of the world. So the first one is Judaism. So this is started by the Jews, and it is the one available in the Old Testament, which they narrated all one of the highlight is Moses, who introduced the Mosaic law or the Ten Commandments that helped the people, of the Jews at the time to establish their own culture. Next is Christianity. So this is after the Old Testament. So this was introduced by Jesus Christ, and it was brought by the Spaniards to different countries and even to the Philippines. And in fact, Christianity is one of the major religions of the world. Next is Islam. This is founded by Muhammad, and it is one of their culture is to pray 5 times a day. They also do fasting during the holy month of Ramadan. And at the same time, they are obligated to go to or go to their holy city to in Mecca as part um, of their religious beliefs. Next is Hinduism, followed by Buddhism, founded by Gautama Buddha. We have animism. These are primitive religions, just like what we have in the Philippines, in which we praise nature. We give thanks to Mother Nature for all the blessings. And majority of all the tribes in other different countries have practiced animism. And the last one is Sikhism. So this is the map of the distribution of the different religions of the world. So for Christianity, as you can see there, that is the majority, which are colored in blue, red, and yellow, followed by Islam, which composed of the green and the another color, and the rest, which include tribal, Christian, Muslim, traditional tribal, are a minority in some of it. The next is technology. So what are the two technological influence of technology in culture? So we have the two types, which is the urban and the rural. The other one is modern and traditional. So for the first one, so as you can see in the picture, the rural. So these are people living in the provinces, living in the mountain areas, who still practice, who still do farming. For the urban, this is a highly populated area in which there are a lot of establishments, many job opportunities can also be found in urban places. Next is for the modern technology. As you can see, we have our different gadgets that really influence our behavior, our culture, even up to this time. And because of this pandemic, we are using this modern technology, and though we are adjusting to the new normal, but still we are doing our best to cope with it by using, for example, in our teaching right now, we are using online teaching or blended learning in order for us to uh, deliver our information to our students. And then the traditional technology, of course, is composed of using the primitive type of tools, and mostly these are still used majority in the rural areas. Next is the institutions. So the institution take care of society. So one of the example of institutions are schools, hospitals, and for the government, it protect from outsiders and regulate the behavior of the people. So we know that the government has a big influence on the people living in that area. So it depends if where we are living or what type of government we are living in has a big influence on the culture of that place. So schools, so these are an example. This is in the US. And then these are their facilities. And then we have our hospitals. We also have the military because it is, according to some, having a military force is very important to keep safe the people living in it. And then cultural heart. So this is the point of origin of a cultural trait. So these are the ancient civilizations that really influence what we have right now. So starting from number one in the Mesoamerica area, followed by the Andean America. Next is in the African area, then near the Nile River, in which there's the Sumerians, in the Mesopotamia or the modern Iraq, in Indus River, in the Ganges, and the last one is in China. So these are interrelated to one another, generation to generation, and there are some culture that are parallel from one culture to another. Cultural convergence. This is the contact and interaction of one culture with another. So in the idea of the African slave trade, if you can see on the map, those are the main sources of slaves that are highlighted, in the yellow color. And then those people from these countries, they were transported to the Americas, and in fact to the Middle East, and even to South America. And then this their culture from Africa have been transferred to different countries. So that is why there are a lot of cultural practices done in Africa, but now can be seen in these different countries where they went. It's because of the slave trade at that time. Then Spain introduces Roman Catholicism into Mexico, and it's not only in Mexico, but in all of the Spanish colonies at the time. And that is why in Mexico, though it is in America, we have a very similar culture. The way we eat, even our names are very Spanish and Mexican sounding, from our food, from our practices, even our languages. No, we have a lot of terms coming from Spain, and that is why, though we are very far, but because of the influence of the Spaniards, it really incorporate their culture into our culture. Mexican American culture introduces Roman Catholicism to the southwest of the US. So after from the Mexican Americans, they influence US at this time. So the spreading of the European languages. So this is what we can see there. So the pink one is the Chinese. I think this already been shown earlier. And then next is cultural divergence. So what is cultural divergence? It is the restriction of a culture from outside influences. The best example that I can give for this is the practice done by the Amish community. So the Amish community is a Christian group that is established in the United States of America, and then they are not using modern technologies. It's because they believe that using this new means is a form of vanity which may lead them to greed. So that's the reason why they still live in simple houses. They still farm using the traditional method. They use a carriage to transport from one location to the next, and they still practice the traditional role of women, in which the women are the ones who take good care of the household and the kids, while the men are the ones working in the farm and providing food for the family. Another one is the idea of communism. So it is really different from democratic form. It's because communism doesn't believe in capitalism. So they believe that in order for you to to have to eat, you have to work for it. So that is one of the major tenet of communism. Next is, yes, I think this is what happened in the Great Berlin Wall, in which there was a big issue on that one, the separation between the East Germany and the West Germany, and eventually the wall in the Berlin Wall was destroyed eventually. And the next is cultural diffusion. It is also known as a spatial diffusion. It is a cultural element that is transmitted across some distance from one group or individual to another. So best example here is the spread of Christianity from Europe to America and to Asia eventually. So if you try to notice here from the picture, the start of Christianity is from Europe, and eventually it was brought about by the conquistadores. Went They went to North America, they went to South America, they went to Africa, they went to Asia, and they went to down south, And not only that they are looking for gold, spices, but they also um, introduce Christianity towards the people. And in fact, they are trying to burn all the artifacts coming from the previous culture, so that they can really inculcate the culture of Christianity among its people. And the Spanish introducing horses to America, and we know that it's not only horses that they are introduced, specifically the way of life, the way our pastime practices, like cockfighting, our food like afritada, like valenciana, those are Spanish influenced food. And of course, the influence of America. No? This is an example of a cultural diffusion. Movies made in America going to the rest of the world. So we know that Hollywood has a very big impact on the cultural mindset, especially for the new generation. Um, the K-pop sensation from the Koreans, which a very big influence on the mindset of the adolescents at the stage. And the next is the Buddhism spreading into China. So we know that Buddhism started in India and then it traveled to the next countries there, which are near. So from India, it traveled down to Tibet, from Tibet down to China, and it spread all around to Burma, to Thailand, to Cambodia, to Sri Lanka, down to Indonesia. And the Philippines was not influenced because we are already under by the Spanish for more than 300 years. So Islam, this is one of the major religion of the world. It started in the Middle East, and it was mostly transferred by merchants from these countries in the Middle Eastern countries, and then they brought it to the places where they went in the Eastern Europe. They conquered it down to Southeast Asia, in Malaysia, and even in the Philippines, especially in Mindanao. But Islam is still the major religion there. And the spreading of European languages, I think this is already came out previously. And these are example of the Buddhist monks. And to sum it up, this is the cultural iceberg in which culture have been. It's like an iceberg in which it was divided into two. The first one is what we call the surface culture, and the other one is the deep culture. So when we say surface culture, these are the things that we see. These are the culture that we hear. These are the culture that we speak. These are the culture that we perceive with our senses. On the other hand, the deep culture is more profound. It is more deep rooted. So this would include here our attitudes, our concepts of things, our opinions of something, our approaches to different, like marriage, like raising children, etc. So I will just like elaborate more on this. So for the surface culture, the one example that you they put there is food. So food has a very big influence in the culture of a country, just like us. Food in the Philippines have been influenced by Chinese, by Spanish, by Indians, and eventually so our food that we have is in a way is a mix of different cultures. Next are the flags, followed by the festivals, especially the fiesta here. This was introduced by the Spaniards, and even if we are not under the Spaniards era to this time, we still have these festivals that we always offer to the different saints every month from January down to December. Fashion, the way we dress. For the Muslim, for the women wearing hijab. Um, for the holidays, for the Islam, they have the Ramadan. For Catholics, we have our Christmas. Music, performances in the literary arts, and of course, language. Then on the other hand, the deep culture, this is the more deeper part of a culture. So the first one there is the communication styles and the rules. So included there the facial expressions, the gestures, the eye contact. Especially in the Philippines, if eye contact and the person is older, that is a sign of disrespect. It's a sign of disrespect, right? But in the states, in the United States or in Western countries, having an eye contact is a sign of respect or means that you are listening to the person who is talking about. Next is personal space. Best example I can give is in the Arab culture. They try to have a very proximate when they talk, especially example men and men. For the Filipinos, we find it very awkward. Two men are very near and they are conversing, but in the Arab culture, very close personal space, even if the same sex is most preferred. The tone of voice, handling and displaying of emotion. So, this is what we call the men or boys don't cry. It's part of our cultural thing, especially in the Philippines. It's a way of machismo. If you are a man, you are not allowed to express sadness, or you should do that. You should not cry because you're a man. And then another thing is the notions of courtesy, manners, friendship, leadership, cleanliness, modesty, and beauty. And outside from that, we have the concepts of self, the concept of time, the concept of justice, the roles related to age, sex, class, family. Next is the attitude towards elders. Like for example, in the Philippines, I don't know if we still practice the mano po. It's a sign of respect for the older people. But in some countries, especially in the West countries, they don't practice this one. Calling ate, kuya, kuya being an older brother, ate being an older sister. Expectations, work, authority, cooperation, or competition. And then the last one is approaches to religion, courtship, marriage, raising children, decision making, and problem solving. So that's all my report on the idea of culture. So I hope you learned something from it. So thank you very much, and this ends my presentation. Thank you.